Hi students, I'm Sailaja of Computer Science Department, and in this video we are going to learn about plsql functions. So in this video we are going to learn what is a function, the syntax of writing a function, how to call a function, how to drop a function or remove a function from the database. Now, what is a function? A function is a database object in Oracle. Just like tables, views, function is also one database object. They are very similar to your C functions or Java functions. You might have written C functions and Java functions. You know the advantages of writing a function. And similarly, these functions in PLSQL are also used, they have the same benefits as that of in C and Java. Alright, so there's a set of SQL statements that accepts only input parameters. They perform an action and they return a value back to the function that has called it or to the statement that has called it. Alright, so it returns only a single value. Unlike procedures, this is a very important point to be noted, that procedures can return more than one value, whereas functions can return only single value. Alright, so what are the various types of functions? They are system defined functions, or we call them as built-in functions too, and we have user defined functions. So user can also write a function whenever there is a requirement. So system defined functions, anyways, we have already seen in the previous unit, SQL. So we know what built-in functions are there in SQL. So they are the same thing in Oracle, in PLSQL too. So we'll see how to write a function, a user defined function in PLSQL. So user defined functions are nothing but, they're also called as stored functions, or they're also called as user functions. What they are meant to do, they are meant to do a particular task in the database. So they are meant to do a particular task in a database. So they generally, they take a value, they do some kind of calculations, and then they return a value back to the statement that has, from where actually it has been called. Alright, so a called function performs the defined task, and when it returns a statement, return statement, when its return statement is executed, or when the last end statement is reached, it returns the program control back to the main program. So there will be some kind of main program or a statement that's going to make a call to the function. So whatever the function is intended to do, it does, and finally returns a value back to the function it has called. Alright, so let's see the syntax of a function. So this is the syntax of a function. So from the main program we are going to send some values. So all those values are listed out in this parameter list, and we're going to write in the executable section what that particular function is intended to do. So once it is finished doing it, it has to return a value back to it. So that will be written in the return statements, okay, in the form of the data type. Fine. So let's see with an example. Yeah, before getting into the example, so we talked about the parameters list, right? So here in functions of PLSQL, the parameters can be of three different types, right? Three different types. No, I'm just getting back to this one. So here what it means is, here we have parameters list, right? So this parameters list can be, the parameters can be of three different kinds. What are the three different types of parameters we can have? We can have an in parameter, out parameter, and an in-out parameter. So in parameter means that particular parameter is nothing but a variable, can receive a value from the main program. So in parameter can only be receiving values, it can be used only to receive values from the main program, and can be used in the executable section of the function. So what is an out parameter? Out parameter is not meant to receive a value, but rather Once the program is executed, if the particular program has to return a value, then out parameter is used. So out parameter, you can see here, the parameter cannot be referenced by the procedure or a function, but the value of the parameter can be overwritten by the procedure or a function. So you can actually send a value back to the main program environment through the out parameter. And in out parameter is a combination of both. So that particular variable can receive a value from the main environment and can send value to the main environment from which it has been called. Alright, so there are three types of parameters, a very important question even for your university exams. So what are the three different types of parameters? In, out and in out. In for receiving, out to give out the value after execution. In, out can do both the things of in and out. Let's see an example here. So in this example, before looking at the function in detail, so this function is actually using the data of a student table. So we can see the data here given. Okay. So the function that this particular function, what it does is it has to calculate the due. Due means what? Whatever the total fee. TF stands for total fee. FP stands for fee paid. So due is what? So how much still a student has to pay. Alright, how much still the student has to pay will be calculated by this function fee due. Fine. So fee due, what it does, there is a variable st number. One more thing, if that particular variable is not, specifically, if you don't specify in out, by default it is an in parameter. Alright, so what data type it is? It is the data type, the student number is of data type students dot student number percentage data type. You might be knowing what this is, percentage type. That means of this particular student number, whatever the student number columns data type is, we are using that same, this particular st number is also of the same data type. Okay, that's what actually it means. So now we are going to calculate here. What are we calculating? We are actually seeing the difference between the TF and the fee paid, and we push it into a due. Due is what? It's nothing but a variable which is going to be returned, to the main program. All right, due. So finally we are going to return due. Due, what does it collect? It collects the difference amount of each student. Whatever the student number you send, it's going to calculate the difference amount or due, fee due of that particular student. All right. So suppose, how do we call this function? Look, so here the st number is 105. So where are we calling it? Look here. So this is the calling statement. Where are we calling it? This is a normal plsql block. Okay, this is a just normal plsql block. So in this plsql block, in the executable section, we are calling a function called fee due by sending st number. What is the st number? St number is assigned a value of 105. That means we are calculating the fee due of 105. So this immediately what it does, it goes and calls 105. So what does 105 has? Whatever the difference amount, it's going to calculate and it's going to return in a variable called due. Okay, and we are going to collect it here and print it. Fine. So this is the calling statement of a function. Fine. So the same thing is written here, you can see. So this is actually the runtime environment of the function. So it's done in Oracle 10G. The same thing that that was written in the previous slide, the same code has been written here. Right, and this is the output. So 105 has due 2000 rupees. So this we are printing in this, in this fashion. So we are getting printed like this. Alright, so once a function is created, sometime later you want to remove the function from the database. So you can just drop the function using the syntax drop function and function name. So whatever the function you want to drop, you say drop function, function name is the function you want to drop. right? You can simply say drop function. We have written a function called what's a function we call feed you, right? So we can say drop function feed you. Fine. So in this slide we are going to see the differences between procedures and functions. So actually, whenever you go to an interview, whenever you're facing an interview on DBMS, this question, I think you cannot miss out this question. Somewhere you're going to come across this question being asked by somebody. So unlike procedure, functions can return a single value. Procedures can return more than one value. Functions can return only one value. Unlike procedure, functions accept only input parameters. So they can accept only input parameters. Functions, you can have both in and out parameters there, right? So unlike procedures, function is not a part of insert, update or delete. That means, no, when you're doing some insert, you can have this insert statements or update statements written within a procedure, but within a function you cannot do. So function is meant to actually do some calculation, but actually not to make any changes in the database. That's what actually means. So like procedure, function also can be listed up to 32 levels, and this might be a dynamic statement because it might change with the version 2. All right, user defined functions, they don't support exception handling. All right, so these are the various similarities and differences between functions and procedures. Okay, so there are few points that are given here. What is the summary of this lesson? So we have seen how to write a syntax of user defined function, learned what actually functions are, what are its uses, and what are the various types of parameters, in, out and in out, learned how to call a function, have seen how to drop a function or remove a function from the database, and we have seen an example of writing a function and calling it. All right, and finally we have seen the differences between stored procedures and functions. Thank you for watching. We'll see more in the next video, and thank you.